Good day and welcome to this panel. We have a very exciting lineup today. We speak with five artisan perfumers. They are taking the time to talk with us and with each other about some of their challenges and inspirations. We hope you discover and support these great artisans. A little about TasteTV. TasteTV is an international media company based in San Francisco and founded in 2005. TasteTV produces television programs, online videos, product reviews, award competitions, live tasting events, especially for chocolate and wine, and books. Books such as the Winemaker's Primer, the Chocolatier's Primer, the Fragrance Designer's Primer, and the Official Chocolate Journal. Today's panel should be very interesting. First up, we have Dannielle Sergent of Cognizanti. Danielle is an artist, olfactive, visual, and environmental. She founded her award-winning Artisan Fragrance House in 2010. It is known for unique ingredient pairings, classical construction, and modern olfactive design. Paul Kiler of PK Perfumes. Paul Kiler is a perfumer from Southern California. He has won numerous industry awards, and his fragrances often sell out at live events and at festivals. PK Perfumes. Olivia Larson of La Fleur by Livvy. La Fleur by Livvy was founded in the summer of 2013 in Colorado. Olivia is a self-taught artisan perfume maker. Each perfume is handcrafted in small batches and is plant-based and animal cruelty-free. Shelley Waddington, founder of En Voyage Perfumes. Shelley is recipient of multiple international awards and author of Perfuming with Natural Isolates. She is a true underground force in perfumery. Stacy Lazzara of Jade Perfumes. Since she was a child, she has loved beautiful scents and mixing potions. Stacy founded Jade Perfumes, sourcing natural essences from all around the world. Today's moderator is Felicia M. Hazzard, Fragrance Belle Lettre magazine and author. Felicia consults to several small fragrance companies on projects and writes for online magazines, plus her own Fragrance Belle Lettre.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us today. I am so pleased to be here with my guest perfumers. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank TasteTV and the Artisan Fragrance Salon for hosting this conversation. As the introduction stated, that our perfumers are internationally and locally known for their incredible fragrances, and they are award-winning perfumers. So how would you like to be an award-winning perfumer? My first question is, how did you get into perfumery? Shelley, you a multi-award winner. Your creative energy is just awesome. I've tested your samples, you've sent them to me, and I still have them, and they are in my drawer, and they just, I really, literally, I still smell them. What made you go into perfumery? What led you to that path?
Well, Felicia, I made my first perfume when I was 10 years old. Wow. In the 5th grade. And I've just never stopped. I keep trying.
Don't stop.
It's just something I am driven to do.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And so do you see any trends? I know there are trends out, and as a perfumer, do you recognize the trends? Do you worry about the trends, or is it just something that your own desire? What inspires you?
This is absolutely my own desire. This is my dream job. I don't have a boss. I get to make my own decisions. And a few years back, there was a perfume reviewer that said, she made a kind of a snarky comment on one of her blogs. And she said, I just don't get what Shelley Waddington is doing. Well, you know, Felicia, this was many years before Black Lives Matter, and she was white. And you know, she didn't get it.
Yeah.
But we're a multiracial company, and expressing and sharing and celebrating multiracial stories and fables and myths have always been what's important to me in my heart, and that's what I do. Some people will get it, some people won't.
Exactly. And that's why you have your business. That's why you're a business owner. Exactly. That's a beautiful story, though. That's beautiful. Paul, I was on your website and I read that you're inspired by nature. So what, I believe I'm correct with that. Okay, and so what made you become a perfumer? What is your path?
I used to live at the beach, and I was a commercial photographer and stained glass artist and furniture maker and things like that. And we bought our first house in the Inland Empire, and Mary knows how hot it is out here. And it's extremely hot. And I was used to going in the garage and making all the time, every day. But it's too hot to go in the garage, and it's too cold in the winter sometimes too. So it drove me inside, and I had to find something to do. It had just been through the 1990s, and all of the men's fragrances were sports fragrances, and they all had the same base note, and they all gave me a headache, and I wanted something I could wear that didn't give me a headache. So I just started to try making something for myself, and something I liked and I wanted, and were notes that I didn't find out in commercial fragrances, and it went from there.
Right. So do you follow trends and in the fragrance industry, fashion magazines? Do you follow trends?
Yes and no. When I first started, I wanted leather fragrances. So I made leather fragrances. Now I find that leather fragrances have become a lot more popular. Maybe I started it, maybe I didn't, I don't know. But I wanted some leather stuff to wear. And so, yeah, that was that. Now I have clients that are asking me to make fragrances that are natural or clean or something. So I'm watching that trend and seeing where that's going.
Right. That is a trend. Yeah. And I've got some questions about natural. Stacy, I know that you've lived several places, and I know now that you're in the Chicagoland area, my hometown. So how did you become a perfumer? And I understand that you have a family too. So how do you, in your situation, how do you balance being a business owner and a mother and a wife?
Yeah. Okay, so let's start. I just always loved scent. So when I was little, I used to pick flowers, lilacs and peonies, and crush them into perfume and make everybody wear them. And my grandmother always said, oh, this is the best perfume. This is like her favorite perfume. So I think that is what really inspired me, is like that my grandmother said that. And I had a natural attraction to scent and natural scents. So that's what sparked my interest. And then when I was in my 20s, I studied in the back of little apothecary stores in Chicago. There was a little place that on Webster and Halstead, I think, called Aroma. It's not the perfume store that you might know.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yep. And I took classes in the back of the apothecary, and I started buying oils and building an organ, and I didn't even really know that I was building an organ. And then I moved to California from Chicago, and there were no perfumers that I thought at the time. And this was I was just getting onto the internet. And so I took a aromatherapy class, which was nice, and I had 3 kids by then. And then I read Mandy Aftel's book.
Yes.
And what she said just resonated with me. And I looked, this is before I didn't email. I called, her number's in the back of the book, and I called her, and found out about her classes and started studying with her probably between 10 and 15 years ago. I'm not sure.
Wow.
And then from that, that's it. And then we moved to Puerto Rico, me and my family, and now we're back in Chicago. And I have 4 kids, and it's a little crazy. Quarantine.
Yeah.
It's a little hard to get things done. Yeah. Everyone's locked up right now.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, you're maintaining. So yeah, you're maintaining. Olivia, I have been wanting to ask you, you're fascinating. Your bio is fascinating. And I know that you are a natural perfumer. So as far as natural, were you always a natural perfumer? Did you do research and say, well, I want to go into that? How did you begin in perfumery?
Yes, I started off doing naturals, and I played around with creating perfumes just for myself because I suffered from really bad allergies for a long time.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of times I'd go into like a department store and I love fragrances and I'd smell them and I'd get like headaches and I'd feel like really nauseous.
Yeah.
So I really love flowers. I'm just mad about flowers like some people are about dogs.
Yeah.
So I absolutely love taking, the Oriental or Eastern flowers from India, like the jasmines and tuberose, and that's what drew me into botanical perfumery.
Yeah. I've had some of your samples, and you do deal with flowers and the essence, and coming from different lands. So that I was curious about that. Yeah. And so and you're online, right? Your business is online. Okay. All right. So because I've got another question about that coming on. Dannielle, I met you in San Francisco in I think 2011 or 2012.
2012. It's actually 8 years ago today was the first Artisan Fragrance Salon
That's
on the West Coast by TasteTV. So thank you, Andre and team.
I was there.
That's right. That's
yes.
exactly right.
So I launched that day. So today is Cognoscenti's birthday, 8 years.
Hey. Awesome.
Yeah. So we met. Definitely. I met Paul there.
Yes.
I met Shelley shortly afterwards, I think. And Livvy at, I think, one of the next fragrance salons. So, and Mary I met at the first salon, I believe. So this panel is kind of a homecoming, especially today.
It really
I didn't hear a question, but I love dogs and flowers too.
Okay.
I am a mixed media scent artist, so I use synthetics and naturals. I find the synthetics for me offer that sort of sparkle, that different edge that I sometimes can't get with naturals.
Yes.
However, the natural isolates are pretty fascinating. So love those. What else? Let's see. I started.
Your natural is very high end.
Yeah, so I do a very high percentage of naturals. In some it's almost 90%, or even with the dilutions, it's still quite high. I started. I've always had a great nose. I've always loved fragrance. One of my taglines is I love flowers, and you can see one of my paintings behind me. I'm kind of obsessed with them, but I don't want to smell like one. So my fragrances have a tendency to be unusual, an unusual pairing like tomato leather or oud and cypress. But recently my flower paintings have started to dictate different notes. So I've been using more florals in unique ways. So it's very exciting to see sort of where the brand is going.
Great. Yeah. I remember my first, when I first met you, it was the tomato and leather.
Yeah.
It was my first scent. Yes. I never forget that.
It's still the fan favorite. Yeah, still. It sells out often, and so I make probably most of my perfume is tomato leather, and you kind of want to everybody has a favorite, and in everyone's line I'm sure there are stars and ones that they really love that don't sell as well as the other ones. But that's part of being a creative, is that especially in fragrance, everything's so subjective. It's very hard to buy fragrance for somebody. And it's very hard for people to define what they like in fragrance. So the fact that we have a pretty unique panel here, because I've smelled almost everybody's. Jade, I haven't smelled, Stacey, I haven't smelled yours. But they're all very different and very exciting to have that difference.
It is. It is. I think it's just beautiful. And before I move on, I want to give the audience an opportunity. If you have any questions for our panel, in the chat at the bottom, if you can just place not very long, lengthy sentences, but just, something kind of brief, and I can, kind of read it and have our panel of award-winning perfumers answer those questions for you as much as possible. Okay, thank you. Moving on, I think I've kind of touched on that as far as what sources or inspiration, or if there's one inspiration that you find, I've got to, I love that. I've got to make a fragrance around that object or that photo or the place I went to. Is there anything that makes you just, I've got something that inspires, I've got to start working on that particular fragrance? Paul, is there anything?
Oh, I have a lot of things like that. I think one of the ones that comes to mind is when my grandparents lived outside of Jackson, California. They were in gold country, elevation about 3,500 feet. And in the meadows there, they have a fern-looking plant that exudes essential oil in the resin, and the resin has about a 12 or 15% essential oil content. And in the summer, I would go up to my grandparents' house and run through the little meadows around there with the ferns, and this resin would stick to my shoes and my pant legs, and it would smell for days, and I loved that smell. And so one of my fragrances, Air, uses that. I go in the mountains and I pick it and tincture. I get a license from the state to pick it, and I love that. I've composed my ode to the forest with that natural tincture.
To the forest. Yeah, I like that. And that's a nice name for a fragrance if you think about making one, Ode to the Forest. That's fantastic.
I called the fragrance Air, E-R-E, which means in the past.
I like that. I like that. I'm writing it down right now. Olivia, I know you said flowers. You're inspired by flowers. Is there anything else that that comes to mind as far as inspiration when you need to make that scent? I've got to create it. And
no, I think I draw a lot of my inspiration going back to my childhood, growing up in India.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I had to do for my mom was go to the market every day and get vegetables and, herbs and things like that. And for me, it was just like the best place to be, to just go and explore, smell and sound and vision. So I love spices. I love cooking Indian food. So a lot of India is in my perfumes in the background.
Yes, you said that, in your bio. That is correct. That is correct. Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Stacey, anything what one thing or things that inspire you to urge you to create a scent?
It's always different with each scent. With Gypsy, it was my father's pipe tobacco, because I used to pack his pipes, and it was one of my favorite scent memories of my life. And then with Violetta, it was just Baronia. I just fell in love with Baronia, and I wanted to pull out all the different facets of Baronia. So it just depends, it just depends on the scent, what inspires me that day, that week, that year.
Yes. And as a mother and as a wife, I know, and when you're in the kitchen.
Yeah, when you're in the kitchen, or when my kids are in the kitchen and something's burning. Yeah.
That's a whole nother scent.
Yeah, that's a whole nother scent, but.
Shelley?
Oh, but herbs and spices and everything. Yeah. And gardening. I love to garden and get inspiration, through that.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Shelley, I know that you have multitudes of fragrances and as far as the range. So what comes to mind for you when you're ready to create?
I think the concept for a perfume comes, for me, it's simply paying attention to the world around me. And it can be any kind of a story that grabs my attention, any kind of a plant that grabs my attention, a concept, a movement. And, I'll focus in on it and say, oh, aha. Because long ago, I mean, all of us have been perfuming for many years. We've mastered our organ. We know what our fragrances are. And so when something in the world catches my attention, I immediately go in my mind to what corresponds to that. And so a lot of times, well, like for example, let's see, there's a fragrance that I made when I came up here to Oregon, because there's just so much greenery around and so many forests. And so we went, I went and I did that. My first fragrance was about Carmel by the Sea, where I grew up. I wanted to get the sand and the surf and the fog and that kind of thing. But I like to also, I read a lot, and literature and philosophy are really important to me. And so I come across stories, myths and fables and things like that. My Makita is about, that was the original true name of the Queen of Sheba. And that is just such a magnificent story. And so I brought in what I thought was going to smell good with that concept. Another one I've done is Frida, the Mexican artist. And so that was pretty easy for me because she had a huge garden and and she was unusual and kind of very quirky. So I like to do myths and tales from different countries, especially about women. I love perfuming about women. My newest one, Nepenthe, is about the Queen of Sheba.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Yeah, and you talked about Frida, and there's so much literature and research done about her. And so, yeah, I can see where, and she offers so much.
Absolutely. Yeah.
From her clothes to the flowers to so much to reach for her.
It was the same with Zelda. There's so much written about her and her husband, F. Scott. And, like when you think about a person, what does she do? Well, she painted, she wrote, she practiced ballet. Well, we've got to have some leather for the ballet slippers. She grew up in the deep South. Well, we have to have magnolia trees, right? And so on it goes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Danielle?
Well, I think unlike most of the storytellers here, I don't really start with the story. I start with the ingredients and usually try and find two that I think can either push and pull each other, morph into something different. And the influences for that are all over the map. So they're modern painting, jazz, it's color, it's light, it's accenting an angle or a sharp note in one of the fragrance notes and then adding depth. So it's chiaroscuro. It's, writing is also important. The way people write and the nuance, like, is it a long sentence? Is it a short sentence? How does each note arc? I think what's interesting is to hear the stories that the customers bring back to me. So tomato leather could be, I've heard, reminds me of, picking tomatoes with my grandmother in her garden because it's got such a sharp green tomato leaf note. But then, one of my clients also says, you know, it reminds her of sitting on the back of her boyfriend's motorcycle driving down the freeway. So, you know, you've got garden and asphalt, right, in the same one. And if I had given too much of a story up front, I don't know that that story arc would have come back. So, but that's not that I don't work with stories. Most of my environmental scent projects come with a story. So one of the recent ones is just called Orchard. And so it's based on sort of a California orchard. So, you know, you've got dirt. Is it an apricot or is it an almond blossom? You know, you have to pick whether it's in sunshine, whether it's a winter orchard. So it's really about the ingredients, I think, for me. And everything excites me. Everything influences me. And I read a lot. I look at a lot at pop culture. I do a lot of studying of science. I think science and art are very important to sort of fuse together. And as a perfumer, we all know that the science part is as important as the art part. So I'm kind of a polymath. I do a lot of different things and they all influence each other in some way.
That's great. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Now here comes the, I think, $1 million question for business owners, and that's in any business: challenges. And I know that we're in a pandemic time. So other than just, if we were not and you were having, you know, as a business owner and challenges, has there anything increased or you have to do differently due to the pandemic, sourcing materials where you were freer and now because places are on hiatus, you can't get it as frequent or not at all? Olivia, have you come up with anything that a challenge as far as you know, during the pandemic or anything as a business owner, what you've had to, you know, not do or, you know, wait on?
The one thing that I found recently is, you know, shipping has been taking a long time.
Yeah.
Getting materials and raw materials, and it just takes a long time. Sometimes there's shortages because they can't source them from, you know, overseas. So that's one issue. You don't have that ability to see your customer face to face. So you have to become a little innovative and find ways to reach them via, you know, phone call or an email and try to get more personal.
Yeah.
On a one-on-one basis.
Yeah, that's important, getting more and I saw that in the news about as far as business owners have to getting more personal. Yeah, I agree with that. Stacy, anything for you? Any challenges or?
I think the biggest challenge is working from home, because I have my studio and everything is in my home, and now everyone's home. And that was very difficult to stay focused and creative, and at the same time have all of my kids home and school at home. And so to me, that was the biggest challenge, because I'm used to running everything from my house anyway.
Yeah.
And you just give a little extra time for shipping, but that was the biggest challenge for sure.
Yeah, I can understand. Everyone's at home and you still have to do what you have to do for the business.
A lot of people in the house and a lot of things happening, and you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, yeah.
But that's the big, yeah. Dannielle, what's been a challenge for you thus far during this pandemic?
I would say not engaging with the retailers as much one-on-one. I'm very fortunate to have Tiger Lily not too far, so just dropping in and saying hi and sort of smelling everybody else's new stuff. I always like that. I haven't been able to do that. From a business point of view, took longer to get my Perfumers alcohol this time. It wasn't too terribly long, but I understand that alcohol for disinfectant is a priority. So I had to sit back and say, you know, I'm good. Sampling has definitely increased. So I've had to make more samples because people aren't able to go smell somewhere. And, you know, when you're trying to expand your business, it's hard to expand it when the economy has shrunk. So, you know, it's just postponing things. I had to postpone the launch of my next fragrance. You know, it'll be happening this year, but it's going to be 6 months behind. There was, you know, packaging concerns and bottle supplies and, you know, the things everybody else is dealing with. But, you know, I consider myself very fortunate and just, I have the opportunity to postpone. So I'm okay with that.
Good. So are you Danielle, are you engaging with your customers more, like blogs and keeping them interested and keeping things updated?
I am not great at responding immediately to emails. It's usually within 24 hours, but I do have a full-time job, and I'm lucky to have it. So, you know, during the day, I can't respond right away. But the whole scent festival was fantastic just to reach a broader audience. And sales went up because of that. And then being part of the Art and Olfaction finalists, you know, there's a lot more contact with me because of that. So those are opportunities that, you know, you seek out and then hope something comes back.
Comes back. Good. Paul, any challenges, anything, and how are you working around them? What are you doing to, you know, engaging with your customers?
Lots of things are problematic. Shipping, I just found out that a package I sent to Spain in the 1st of March got there this week.
Oh, wow.
So they had already complained and I had already refunded the money. And so then they paid for it again. But some of my suppliers are just coming back. One of my clients that I've made fragrances for has had to wait and, you know, launch their line later, waiting for final payment from that job to complete. Lots of things have been problematic.
Yeah. It's a lot that you have to try to do, backtrack and keep it. Shelley, what's going on with you?
Well, I'm just plugging along as I always have. You know that I'm not madly ambitious to grow my company to a worldwide phenomenon. And I cherish my one-on-one conversations with my customers. And so I try to keep myself small enough that I have a personal touch with everyone that I come into contact who either orders something from me or who wants to be my student. And what's been interesting to me is, God bless everybody. They seem to be staying home and spending money. So I've seen actually an uptick in my orders, and I have more students right now than I'm normally carrying. So it's been very pleasant for me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you turn lemons into lemonade. So there you go. Very good. I kind of also wanted to ask, as far as a business owner, and sometimes you're just yourself. So you're the creator, you're the PR, you're the marketing, you're doing all of that. How do you work that out, as far as, you know, once you create and you label the labels, are you getting help, doing it all by yourself, you know, and then, you know, you have your own life outside of it. So, you know, I've always been curious about that. Stacy, I know with your family, and I know, so, but, you know, you're doing it all. Do you take, well, this week I'm going to do this, next few days I'll do labels. Do you?
No, I'm not that organized.
No.
Yeah. I think when I'm working on a perfume, that's all I do is I work on the perfume. And then when the perfume is done, then I work on the label and the graphics and so it's very, and when it's time to scale up, then that's a whole other thing that my husband has to get involved with, because.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, because he helps me with the ratios a little bit, because that's my strong point. So I just kind of, when I run out of something, I do my ordering. I do inventory regularly. That's probably the one thing that I do regularly, and the most organized about.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Paul, how do you work it out for you? As far as, and PR and putting it out there, and then also, I do know that you are bloggers, and they ask for interviews and samples and things of that nature. So you also, putting the word out. They have a new fragrance. I'm putting the word out. So there's a lot to this. It's just not the scent and putting the bottle label and then that's it. It's a lot of behind the scenes.
Probably that's my worst failure is PR and talking to people, getting the stuff out there. I was prepared to answer another part of your other question.
No, go right ahead. Go ahead if you remember.
So, I look for people to help to do things for me, like packaging, bottling, putting samples together, things like that. So there was a girl at my church that had never had a job, and she had one good hand and one good eye and one good foot. And I looked at her and I said, I think you can work for me. I think you can do stuff for me. So she came and worked for a couple of weeks and made, endless samples for me. And she got so excited with her first paycheck. But, I'll hire homeless people. I hire neighborhood kids. I'll hire my kids, to do all the stuff I don't want to do.
That's good. You're in the community. Really, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. That is a smart way to do that, though. That is smart. Olivia, what do you try to work around and manage and curtail?
I love multitasking and keeping calendars and little lists to help me along the way.
Yeah.
I have a full-time job too, so I do bookkeeping, so I have to be organized.
Oh, yeah.
My little niece who just graduated from high school, I shouldn't say little, she helps me with blogging on a part-time basis or keeping up on Instagram for me a little bit. And I'll have her look at labels, but from the beginning to the end, I like to be, in control of what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll ask opinions and advice and, go with that. But I think it's important to be there every step of the way.
Yeah, and you're very good as far as Facebook and everything with me. So, you're very good at getting that out, getting the word out when you have a new scent. And that's how I knew, Yeah. So you're very good at contacting. So keep it up. Keep it up. Shelley, what do you do? I know you got a lot on your.
Just a little bit. Oh, Felicia, it's such a great question, though, because I don't think that people realize, unless you're in it, that, if you look at a major corporation and all of the different departments that are contained in a corporation, we as individual business owners are responsible for every darn facet of running the company.
That's correct.
And sometimes it's hilarious. You really have to do a lot of learning. Sometimes there's kind of a learning curve. I was really fortunate that when I started the business, I was in corporate, and so I sort of had an idea of how a corporation was set up, and I had experience. I was actually doing sales and marketing at the time, and I kind of knew what other people were doing, and so it gave me a little bit of insight into how I wanted to run my company. So I got started, and I think a lot of people that are in the business now have really caught on to that. I was sort of like ahead of the game because of what I had been doing, but I think people have caught on to that. They know how to run their businesses now pretty well. And I'm like, Paul, thank God for family, they're wonderful helpers.
Right. And plus you're an author. So you have, the perfumery, and then you had the other side of it, you've got to sit down and write a book. Yeah,
that was probably the toughest thing I ever did. I don't think I'll ever do that again. Writing is not easy,
No. That's right. No, it's not. No, it's not. And the idea of when, you're picking your days, and then if you get an idea, you need to work on writing it before you lose it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Excellent, though. But it's a great book, though. You really you put a lot into it. You put a lot into it. It's a really great. Danielle, what do you do? How do you try to work around those things as or do you have
Yeah.
help?
No, I do it all. I did have help the first year. So it was 2 years between the one class I took with Yosh and then the launch date. So the first year was just learning about all the ingredients. And then the second year, like Shelley, I'd been in corporations. So, and I had an art and architecture background. So I spent the second year doing graphics and packaging and sort of figuring out what the launch was going to be. And once I had sort of the brand identity down, anytime something comes up, I have something to fall back on. So I think I started out pretty well with, you know, good bottles, good boxes. So I don't really change them that much. And, you know, when I do have a need to change some of the packaging, for instance, this is my standard packaging, right?
Mm-hmm.
Green, Cognoscenti. And then when I went to the dark lovelies, you know, it went to black, but it's the same, it's kind of the same thing. So I did the change from green to black, you know, and then I source everything, I make everything. I did have a friend's young daughters help me once do all the samples because they had small hands. And that's when I had the samples with the little caps that really hurt. So they were really good at that, but I do it all now. And so I do it in chunks. You know, if it's sample time, it takes a whole weekend to make all the sample packs because, you know, there's 7 that need to be individually filled, individually tagged. Then they have a card and a sleeve, and then they go into another thing. So I do it in chunks. And like Stacy, when I'm working on a fragrance, that's pretty much what I do. You know, and I wear it, you know, my friends, I have beta testers, I'm wearing it. And then when it comes time to package it, I kind of have the packaging already set up.
That's good.
So
yeah, you're very organized. That's great.
I try.
It's a lot.
It doesn't always work, but I try.
Right. In the end, it looks good. It's good.
Yeah, thank you.
So, you know, that's why I wanted to ask that question to let people know that you get that pretty packaging. Once it gets to you, it's a lot of work, you know, and dedication behind it. Yeah. Well, is there any particular fragrance or scent that you like to work most with? My favorite is, one of my favorite scents is vanilla. And I've read some articles within the last 2 years how a lot of food industries are going natural, and vanilla being one of the most popular, if not the most popular scent or flavor, became a shortage. And when you did find it, pure vanilla, you know, it was such a expensive, you know. So have you had any issues with finding, or, and especially now things are hiatus, getting a scent that you really like to work with, and it being difficult to try to get? Shelley, anything that, you know, because I know you know, of course, a variety of things, but, you know, and I was so concerned about vanilla because that was my favorite. Like, oh no, it's a shortage of vanilla. So
I know, it's unthinkable, isn't it?
yeah.
Sandalwood was the same thing. Any of the things that are rare and expensive and endangered, I miss them, and try to find ways to create around that little place that's missing.
Yeah.
But I haven't really had trouble getting anything.
That's good. That's good. That's good. And Olivia, I know that you work with a lot of rare scents and things. Have you had any difficulties or any? Because I know that your last fragrance, it had Madagascar, I think vanilla. So, and I know that's where as far as vanilla, that's where the biggest shortage is the vanilla come from Madagascar. So have you had any issues with finding, you know, rare?
Finding vanilla was difficult, but I managed to find the actual beans, and now I'm kind of processing and making my own vanilla extract in-house.
Great.
So the real Madagascar vanilla. And it's interesting, like you say, a lot of it is not the real one out there that is being marketed as well. So
Correct.
Sandalwood, I agree with Shelley, is another rare oil. So, you know, they come in ebbs and flows as different oils, different ingredients that are in the market, and suddenly they're out of the market. It just, you know, ebbs and flows.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Excellent. Paul, I know that you're just dealing with fragrance for men. Is that correct?
Distilling, is that what you said?
Any fragrance for men, just for men?
Well,
Unisex or?
yeah, I mean, I have women that wear everything I make, even though I intend it for a man. So I kind of I dropped that idea that it was just for a man or just for a woman. I don't think men wear everything I make, but women wear everything I make.
Everything you make, yeah. I've known, yeah, women that like, yeah, oud and all those, yeah, the leather. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
My most skankiest leather, stinkiest fragrance I designed for a client in San Francisco, a guy. You know, the first person that bought it at the Artisan Fragrance Salon was a woman, and I thought, oh my God, what is this woman going to wear this? How is she going to wear this?
Yeah, you'd be very surprised. Be very surprised. That's very interesting. Do you have any tips for anyone that wants to go into the business of becoming a perfumer? Just something, and then I'm gonna look at some questions from the audience, but just you know, any tips on where to start, or you know, even if they have not gone to, you know, perfumery school, what should they start out with first? Danielle?
Yeah, I think it's important to learn the ingredients, and you can do that a number of ways. I think you can start small. Mandy's book, you know, Essence and Alchemy. Most perfumers have read it. Most perfumers talk about the relevance of the book. It's a good place to start, just to build sort of the idea of what goes in each category, and then just order materials and start smelling. And you know, taking classes with people whose work you really admire and people who you connect with, I think will help navigate some of the challenges. There's so many more opportunities now than there were 10 years ago. There are so many great supply houses. There are great programs online. There's more teachers, there's more books, there's magazines, there's blogs. I mean, you know, anybody starting now is light years ahead of when we started.
Yes.
So, but I think you start with the ingredients.
That's good.
Personally.
That's right, personally. No, that's good. That's a good answer. That's a good answer. That's a good answer. Paul, what would you say? And as far as now that you've noticed that women like some of the male scents, what would you tell someone who wants to attempt to get into the business?
Shelley and I started in the Yahoo perfume making group, and that's where we learned and had camaraderie and asked, you know, helped each other answer questions. That group kind of died away, and then I started it on Facebook. We now have 6,500 members worldwide.
Wow.
So that group, that idea, that collective consciousness of helping and support, that was you know, so important to helping me learn. I signed up for all those kind of groups at the time. That's one thing. Danielle mentioned Mandy Aftel's book. Whenever somebody asks me that question, I always say, you know, start with what you know. Start in the kitchen if that's what you know. Learn Mandy Aftel's book, and then go from there. And you know, then there's lots of teachers, like Shelley's a teacher. I'm going to be teaching Danielle, and so those are the paths I can point to.
Good. That's good. That's good. Anything, Olivia?
I would say just smell, familiarize yourself with different ingredients. Eden Botanicals has a lot of really lovely natural ingredients that I buy from them. And there's also the International Perfume Foundation that has classes and courses. So a lot of great natural perfumers there, if that's the way you choose to go versus mixed media.
Right, right, mixed media. Yeah. Stacy, how would you suggest, what would you suggest to someone who wants to start out in perfumery?
I agree with what everyone's saying. I think it's important to get to know all the essences and on your organ, and really do perfume studies on them, not just smell them, but really write down and get to know them one by one and then in groups. And I think, like what Paul said, finding a community that you could bounce ideas off of and just kind of get different books to read, different, different ways to dive in. And I think finding a mentor or a school or whichever direction you want to go, someone that could really help guide you and make you think of things that you wouldn't think of, and just be there, for support. And yeah.
That's good. That's good. Shelley, what would you say to someone who wants to be an award-winning perfumer?
I think that temperament has something to do with it. I think, maybe it's not so much what they have to do as who they are. Are they enough of a nerd to be able to sit and smell for hours on end? Or, it's very tedious. They have to really enjoy working by themselves. And I think it helps, perhaps. I don't know how many of you are musicians here, but I know that I am, and I draw a lot of my discipline from learning a musical piece. You don't just sit down and play a whole musical piece. You have to stop on the place where you have a problem and work it and work it and work it until your fingers do the right thing. And that's what you have to do with, they call it the Carl's method, where you just have something that it maybe isn't quite optimized, and you go in and you just start doing all of these little experiments on this little tiny place in the perfume. You just really have to have a lot of patience.
Patience, yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. Okay, I'm going to take a look here and see if we got any questions from our audience, because if they don't, I certainly do, because I'm learning so much today. I really am. Oh, wow. Oh, as far as gourmand, okay, sense. And those, if I'm correct, a sense that would smell like a food, or something of that nature. What is your impression? Or do you get a lot of requests as a signature or a bespoke perfume gourmand? Because I just love them because I like vanilla. But Shelley, do you get any as far as requests for gourmand? Is that
Felicia, I'm not doing any bespoke perfumes right now.
okay?
I haven't for about a year. But yeah, I've done some in the past. They're fun to work with. It's amazing the things that you can come up with, a bread fragrance or a flan or caramel. Probably other people here are working more with gourmands than I am. I think Paul might have something to say about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, because Paul, I know that you have the chocolate violet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's pretty. So yeah, so you're working with more of those.
It depends on. I do a lot of contract work. I make perfumes for other people that want to launch their own lines.
Oh, okay.
And so, I made Violet Chocolatier to take to the first Artisan Fragrance Salon in Santa Monica, because it was paired with the chocolate show, and I thought, well, I better have a chocolate perfume. But my client that's waiting to launch their line, they asked for a peat, smoke, and vanilla perfume.
Ooh.
So I had to design peat smoke, and I had to make vanilla that was affordable. But I have a client that I just am trying to start now, and they want chocolate and iris and hazelnut and pineapple and some other things. So his fragrance is going to be quite gourmandy. It's
Yeah,
it's all
that
over
is,
the place. Depends on what the client wants, but I hope
yeah,
that answers your question.
it does. No, it's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, that and um, it's perfect. And wow, that's a lot of ingredients. That's a lot of ingredients. So when and Paul, that's interesting because when doing that, and you're obviously sending testers back to the client on, um, it's I guess it's stages. Is that how are you doing that?
Yeah, they have their brief that they submit. So I have to work through the brief and make something, and then I send them, a sample of the drafts, and they review and tell me what they like and don't like.
Nice, nice. I like that. Oh, that's so many scents. Oh, that's amazing. Stacy, are you open to signature and bespoke fragrances?
I've made a few. I find it's easier if they could come to my studio.
Mm.
I think it's very difficult to send things back and forth and little, because they have to smell everything. So just send a little sample, but I enjoy doing it. And it's just interesting what people like, and if you look at their lifestyle, I have a chef that I'm going to start working with, and I think hers is going to be a gourmand. I think hers, she doesn't like floral. She likes spices. She likes herbs. She likes, desserts. So it'll be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a perfect fragrance.
Yep.
The chef, oh yeah, yeah. More
Mhm.
likely she might try to sell it in the restaurant.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. That's good. That's good. Danielle, are you working with any personal requests?
Yeah, I do. I like them a lot, actually. It's interesting. I do more environmental fragrance bespoke than I do individual fragrances. And so I'm presenting to committees, right? And it just happened to have, I don't know if you can see, little samples. Like this was the first round, right? And they're 4 different versions or 4 different scents, and then I have the next round of the same ones. And because I'm doing it remotely, and also just because of my background, I do a whole visual presentation too. So I do so they understand the ingredients a little bit more, and then I walk them through it. And so trying to teach people remotely, it's different, but when they have the material in their hand and there's some other references, I think it's easier. I'd love to do more bespoke. I think each client's different. Everybody here has done some request for friends or family or a client, and the briefs and the outlines are so drastically different that some could be horrifically hard to do, and others are just super breezy and easy. And you never really know until you get into it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, that's how you know. I don't know if I asked you, Olivia, but are you taking any requests or?
I haven't really done a whole lot of bespoke, as far as retail goes. I've, made fragrances for friends and family on a personal level.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot more that goes into it, and I'd like to kind of consider it down the road.
Okay.
But as far as gourmandy, I'm not doing anything that smells like flan or candy floss.
No, not at this time. Yeah, not at this time. But you'll be open. It's maybe at some point to be for one, I guess what they call private label.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good. You're open to that. I have a good close friend that wants to start a perfumery. So I said, well, watch my show today, watch our show today. Come on, and I'll send you some questions to see kind of, what you like, it's a personal, and especially it's interesting because she wants to start not just for her. I think she was trying to base it on herself and starting the line. But I said, well, that's okay. But if you're wanting to sell it to others, you might, would that be the way she should try to go around? Maybe try to not just base it on her total likes, but be open.
everybody has their own scent profile and what they like. So you can't really base your own business based on that. You have to diversify and, you know, be more experimental.
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
Try a lot of different things and just kind of gauge who your clientele are going to be, what they're looking for.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And I know that's what you all do. So we're coming to a close. I can't believe this hour and 15 minutes went so fast. I was just getting started. So as far as personally, do you have a favorite scent that you just like to wear personally, a rose or Olivia, do you have a personal favorite scent?
I do. I love wearing a lot of rose with vanilla, and I love woody notes, you know, undernotes. So I definitely love a woody base.
Ooh, that's pretty. Pretty. Rose and woody. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Shelley, what's yours?
It kind of modulates over time, Felicia. Like I have one that's a muguet that I love wearing, and when I get into something, I just wear it day and night until I just am ready to move on. And then right now I'm wearing a full floral. I just love floral, but it changes, you know.
Yeah, it does. It does. And then do you also change with the season?
I think I tend to do that, yes.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
there's some heavier fragrances that I love to wear in the winter that are just, you know, they just have so many woody notes and amber notes and frankincense and good stuff like that. That's not really when it's hot. I like something light and more floral.
More floor. Yes, yes. Danielle, you have a favorite personal scent you like to wear?
I wore Chanel's Cristal for like 20 years before I started my fragrance company. And then now I wear what I'm working on. But for when I'm not working on one, I wear tomato leather all the time. It was interesting today when I was, you know, getting ready and putting on my mascara so I would look groovy for you all. It's not that I'm ever without it, but Tobacco Blonde fell out of my medicine cabinet, and I have this tiny, tiny bottle that is at the very end, and one is the original formulation that I got in New York from the Caron store, you know, with the little, so I'm wearing that today.
Wow.
And I just forgot how floral it was, you know, and how kind of round and expansive. And, you know, when I originally wore it, it was before I was a perfumer, right? And so the tobacco in Tobacco Blonde seemed kind of heavy to me compared to all the other fragrances that were around at the time. And now it's like, where's the tobacco? You know, it was like getting my nose on it because I'm used to bigger, sort of woodier scents, but I'm glad it fell out today because it reminded me of just how amazing some of the great classics are.
That's right.
And, you know, to strive for that kind of excellence in everything I do.
That's right. That's right.
Hi, I just want to interrupt. This is TasteTV and want to say that we actually have a few more, about 10 more minutes left with this. So we are going to be continuing to take more questions from the audience. And if you have any, please send them so that Felicia can ask them. We've also have Mary Orland, who has joined us. She is a well-known writer on fragrances as well.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, how is everybody? Good to see you all.
Good to hear. It's good to see you.
I know, it's been a while. So I'm wondering, what's the best piece of advice you got as you were starting your perfume journey or your perfume business?
That's nice. That's nice. Anybody want to tackle that question? Paul?
Golly, the best advice. I think the best advice was just because you hate a material doesn't mean it's not useful. Just because you don't like what it smells like doesn't mean it has some use. And so perfumers have told me that it's not whether you like it or not, it's how you find it useful.
Mhm.
That's great. That's great. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Stacy, you have any?
Yeah, that was good advice.
Yeah.
That was really good advice. And it's true because people gravitate to what they like, and you won't evolve if you keep doing that as an artist. So I think the best advice I was ever given was to be authentic, and above everything else is to get to know your materials. Because if you don't know your materials, you really can't do anything with them. You can't work with them.
Olivia?
The best advice I got was be true to yourself, be authentic. You know, there's some fragrances that may not appeal to me, but you have to keep an open mind and really learn your raw materials. So be patient and just persevere and keep pushing through the rough times.
Yeah. That's 2 times with her raw, know your materials. That's very important. Shelley?
What was good advice at the time later morphed, but at the very beginning, when I first started learning, I was with a group of natural perfumers. Probably you'd know some of the names, and you know the advice was, well, naturals are good and synthetics are bad. I never quite bought that, but since they were natural perfumers and we were working on projects together, I stayed with naturals for about 3 years. And I think that was probably the best advice I ever had. It really served me well. It gave me a really great foundation from which to springboard and be able to bring in. I'm a lot like Dannielle, you know, that I perfume with a large percentage of naturals. And I know when I want to bring something in that just can't be created with a natural ingredient. So that was great advice. I moved on later, but it was a good foundation.
Good. And lastly, Danielle.
Well, know your ingredients is number one. I think what one time I heard, just because you made a nice smell doesn't mean you've made a great perfume.
Mm.
And you know, I think I had made like a really simple, lovely, beautiful accord, and it was like 3 or 4 ingredients. And I was like, that's not a perfume. That's a fabulous accord that you can use in something to make a great perfume. So I think having, understanding that greatness has complexities, and understanding that making it complex and simple at the same time is one of the hardest things to do in any artistic or creative endeavor. And so that was kind of a blow to me. It's like, oh, it smells good, but that's not a perfume. So I took that to heart. I took it to mean that I needed to work harder. One thing I tell my students is that they need to edit. People put too much stuff in. And so starting with a few great accords is helpful. Because you can't, when Paul mentioned all the ingredients that were going into that one fragrance, I was like, oh my God. So, you know, more power to you, how you make those all work together. But I think editing is important.
Excellent. Oh my gosh, I can't believe the time is up. I'm so grateful to all of you. I've learned so much. And Dannielle, I'm taking this to heart. I'm taking all of what you said today to heart. And when I write, I'm just going to write even better because I've spoken to all of you today. Thank you. Thank you to the audience. I appreciate you being here. I've heard that we have audience around the world, and I appreciate it so much. Thank you to TasteTV and to the Artisan Fragrance Salon. It's been wonderful. Let's do it again.
Thank you, Andre and TasteTV, and thank you, rest of the panel.
Thank you,
Thank you so
everyone.
much. We appreciate your support so much.
Oh, sure. Be safe, everyone.
Oh, and Felicia, did you mention the discounts that might be?
The discounts
yeah.
after, I heard, yes, TasteTV after this, they will be putting the information on discounts.
Great.
After the show. Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Felicia, thank you so much.
Thank you, Felicia.
Be blessed.
Thank you, Andre.
Thanks, fellow perfumers. Miss you
Thanks, Carol,
guys.
Bye,
ladies.
everybody.